Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Way of Life podcast. I'm your host, Gus Holland. I'm about to be joined by Swede Burns, who is a pretty popular powerlifting coach, among other things. And we're going to get to it and hopefully learn a little bit. Hey, Swede. Hey, can you hear me good?
I hear you.
Okay, right. Sweet.
Looks like we're good.
Okay, sweet. Yeah, so...
Do I sound pretty clean? Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, it's pretty good. I'm gonna move this mic a little closer to you just so I can pick it up better. But
okay.
Yeah, it sounds great. Well, how are you doing so far?
What's going on, Gus?
Oh, nothing much. How are you doing?
Oh man, I'm blessed. I can't complain about too much. Got a lot of work, but those are good problems to have, I guess.
Yeah, I got you.
I just finished up the Fifth Set Coaching Manual.
Okay.
Book. That's definitely the most depth and complete piece of writing on Fifth Set I've ever done. It's probably going to be around 300 pages. It's also the textbook that's the required reading for the cert course, and that's also what we're going to use during the cert course to teach out of.
Yeah. Okay.
And so forth. So I don't know if you're familiar with that, but we are going to do that at Elite FTS.
Okay.
I'm not sure if you saw anything I posted about that, but basically, it's a certification course to coach the method for Fifth Set for people that want to be coaches to learn how to use it correctly. And just kind of a step-by-step guide how to use the method, and also some stuff about the business of coaching and how to kind of be efficient and make it a little more, make some potential for profit, because it's not exactly the most lucrative business.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see. So I first learned about you about a month ago or so, because I kind of just put it out there on the podcast story, like for any suggestions of people to get on the podcast, and you were one of the top suggestions. So I started looking into you. Yeah, I started looking into you. I did listen to your podcast episode on the Tate's Table.
Oh, the Table Talk.
Yeah, Table Talk. Yeah. And so I do vaguely know about Fifth Set and everything. I haven't read the book yet or anything, but I am definitely going to in the near future. So.
Well, sweet. And if there's anything that you're curious about, I can explain it, but it is kind of in depth.
Yeah.
So it's like you're talking another language to try to explain it in passing. You have to learn all these words first. So it's like,
yeah, exactly.
There's a little bit of buy-in involved, so it's a little bit of an investment.
Yeah, for sure.
About those things and do it that way.
Oh, hold on. Sorry, I'm losing you for a second. Let me.
Might have I'm on Wi-Fi, so it should clear up.
Okay, sweet. So basically, for those of the listeners that don't necessarily know about Fifth Set, it's basically like it's a training philosophy, correct, or like a coaching method. Is that?
It's a complete methodology, I would say. Like, a philosophy is more of like an idea of how I want to. How I like people to train. Like, high intensity training is maybe more of a philosophy.
Yeah.
But a methodology has a series of laws or rules.
Yeah.
That make it somewhat impossible to mess up if you follow them.
Yeah.
That's the idea. I don't want to say foolproof, because that's like a challenge, and then people will find a way to mess it up.
They'll go above and beyond.
Yeah, but honestly, for people that don't know anything about training, if they just take the templates out back of the book and start running them.
Mm-hmm.
That's the easiest way to learn about it. Run a full template, run a full measure cycle, and then read the book again, and it'll all make a lot more sense.
Yeah, for sure.
You need some practical experience, I think, with any method to really understand how it works, or what each moving part is really meant to do. You don't really. I can explain it to you. You can look at it, and I can give you a concise explanation. But you're going to go, okay, yeah. And putting it all together is just a matter of experience of running it.
Yeah.
I always say, like, you go to school to learn how to do a job, but you learn about the job. And then when you should, like, for example, you go to school to be a nurse, you learn about nursing, you learn about healthcare, but then you show up at work the first day and you realize, I don't know shit.
Yeah.
It's like, I've actually learned how to be a nurse now, and that's the same thing. It's the same thing with this, it's the same thing with anything, really.
Yeah, for sure. I would consider you a pretty popular powerlifting coach. I mean, among other things, author and everything. But what exactly, I guess, got you into the fitness industry? Did it start like when you were a teenager, or I guess what started training?
The idea that I'm in the fitness industry is just sort of something that happened over time.
Yeah.
It wasn't like I was like, hey, I want to be in the fitness industry. But I guess if you go back far enough, you could say that that's the case. I started competing in powerlifting when I was in high school. Okay. So I was like, my first meet I was 16, my second meet I was 18.
Yeah.
And I had just turned 18 at my second meet. But like, so this is something that now, we're 25 years later, I'm still doing this stuff.
Yeah.
And I did bodybuilding for a good bit there in the interim. I've been writing since I was very young, and I've been, writing professionally since I was very young. Like, I was actually one of the first staff writers for RX Muscle magazine, which is like a bodybuilding magazine.
Yeah.
Back when it was in print. Magazine, where you could actually buy the magazine and hold it.
Yeah.
Nowadays, everything's online. You just type in. And I contributed a bunch of stuff for their online magazine also many years later. But I was very involved in the bodybuilding scene early. I was a top national level competitor. By the time I was 22, I was, placing top 10 at nationals. So I was a very good bodybuilder very quickly. It was something that I looked at it as, I always looked at it as the next logical step from powerlifting was going to be bodybuilding,
Yeah.
And then I got a taste of bodybuilding, and I learned everything that I needed to learn in order to excel at that. It's not a small feat to learn that much stuff. It's a very complicated endeavor. It's a complicated pursuit, to put it plainly. But I got really good at diet. I got involved in a diet group. This was back before there was anything like Facebook or anything like that.
Yeah.
It was an email list on something called Listserv. You would get like 500 emails a day for each person that responded to a comment. You would get that thread, and then all the associated threads. Like, you'd have to go through and read each email. Like, it was a matter of reading hundreds of emails a day.
Yeah.
And we would meet up a few times a year. So that was how I got into that, and those were all fitness professionals. I got into studying nutrition and training and so forth, and that was one of the first real places that I excelled with that. And I learned a lot from that and took it into bodybuilding. Started doing bodybuilding when I was 17. I did a team contest that I won, and kept rolling from there. By the time I was like 20, 21, I was in my first bodybuilding contest. I was 176 and a quarter. I was like diced. I was shredded to the bone, because I was like, I'm not going to embarrass myself if I do a bodybuilding contest. So I made the goal to like make middleweight, which seemed impossible, but I knew that if that was the goal, I wouldn't say, "Oh, I'm ready," and still be too fat,
Yeah.
So I did somehow made it down there and like didn't die, and I was razor and a teenager, razor sharp.
Yeah.
And then I moved into, I was like, I want to get as big as I possibly can and take the things I've learned and try to apply them in that direction. And I ended up going, I won the Philly Classic. I want to say it was like maybe 2000, 2001, which was like one of the first shows. That was the first show I did as a kid. When I was a teen, I came back and won it as a super heavyweight.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And I got to the point where I was competing at like 265 pounds,
Yeah, damn.
Almost 100 pounds past where I was. So I was a totally different creature. And I would say the biggest difference for me is just the imperative in bodybuilding to constantly maintain that body weight, in terms of muscle. Like in powerlifting, as long as we're a certain size, it doesn't really matter as much. It's not something that you get graded on. Your body fat percentage is not really part of the equation.
Yeah.
But in bodybuilding, it certainly is. It's like the biggest part of the equation. So I would be walking around most of the year at over 300 pounds in pretty good shape.
Yeah.
Which is, it seems like, as long as you're in pretty good shape. Well, nah, like, honestly, by noon most days, I'd be fantasizing about bed.
Yeah.
I'd be like, just horrible. Just exhausting to live when you're that big.
Yeah.
I don't want to eat anymore. You know, I ate chicken for like so much to the point where I have to actually drink my chicken now. I do chicken shakes now.
Do you really?
Like that's what I had for breakfast this morning. I've been doing that for over maybe 15 years.
Oh wow.
I had that's what I had, a pound of chicken and 3 eggs, a pound of chicken breast and 3 eggs. It's just so much easier to get it down because I would literally got to the point where I ate chicken and rice for 15 years.
Yeah.
Maybe 10 or 12 actually, but it was such a consistent meal that like just putting it in my mouth would make me gag. Like, I just couldn't stand it. Take another bite of chicken. Yeah. And so I found like, oh wait, forget about like chewing up a half pound. I could drink a pound in like 30 seconds. Yeah. So for me, I've always been very results oriented. You know, I'm always like, well, will it get it done? Will it work? And that sort of stuff. I just found tricks like that, and I had a lot of. Like I would do a lot of supplementation in terms of like carb supplements and protein shakes. Like I would have probably 3 or 4 shakes a day that each one would be, you know, at least 100 to 150 grams of carbs and 50 to 75 grams of protein. You know, I'm doing that like 3-4 times a day on top of eating pounds of chicken and all the food. It was just, I mean, it's just an insane amount to consume and even that, like I liked it. I liked the game of it. I love math. Like I've always been pretty good at math and like I love the idea of when I add this up, okay, when I look at everything at the end of the day, am I in deficit? Am I going to be in a surplus? Am I going to get bigger, smaller? And having that control was something that like at first I thought it was neat. And then it became sort of like a spiritual endeavor to deprive myself the times that I needed to. I looked at it as sort of like a way to restrict. Yeah. You know? Yeah. And I kind of reset and recenter myself. And even to this day, man, some of the stuff I picked up at bodybuilding, like I'm cutting right now. Randomly, I'll determine that I need to cut for a little bit. Yeah. And just that it's crazy that it clears your head, clears everything. You know, I mean, it makes you be able to. You would think that I don't have enough calories. You would think that as a result of not having enough calories, you're going to be just tired all the time, not be able to move. But it's the opposite. It's like. Think of being out in the wild and you're starving. You're going to be really alert, trying to find some food to kill. And that's basically, I find that's my experience whenever I'm cutting. So if I get to the point where I'm all, you know, where I find myself just in a rut and I can't get work done or I can't do what I need to, sometimes it's the period of cutting helps me. So that's something from bodybuilding that I still use today. But there were many positives to it, and I loved the journey into myself, like in terms of. What am I capable of doing? How much can I restrict? How much can I force myself to do? And how much can I deprive myself of and keep moving and be consistent? Like not in a way where when you're young and you don't know, you do things like you cut calories way too much and cheat and stuff like that. But to me, I just couldn't handle that. That was failure. That was just defeat. I just was like, something like that would eat me up for weeks, you know? Yeah. So that was never really on the table. That was not an option for me. Yeah. So I learned how to like handle, well, what can I handle? What's the amount? Like I want to find that exact precise amount of how much suffering I can handle and dole that out. How much can I force myself to eat or force myself to train? And it became sort of a masochistic view of the whole process where I was just sort of, how much can I tolerate? And it grew me in character. You know, it definitely allowed me to develop a character, but there were also lots of downsides. Like, you know, my experience in bodybuilding is not like people's is nowadays because, you know, nowadays it's like you do bodybuilding, not even really to compete, but to post stuff on the internet about the fact you're dieting or to talk about it or, it's so hard, I'm really cutting all this, you know. Mm-hmm. It's basically like you need a place to whine about it publicly. Yeah. But we didn't have any of that. Like you basically found out what the other bodybuilders were going to look like the day of your show. And so you better be ready. So I always assumed everyone was going to be perfect, you know? Yeah. And I think that helped me. But the result was it was a very personal thing. It wasn't like I was trying to compete against other people as much as I was trying to really prove myself what I could do. And so by handling things that way, I was able to shoot up the ladder in terms of competition. I did really well. I was, like I said, I was a national guy. I had an endorsement contract that I was like living off of in my 20s. Oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah, so I was like, you know, that was my profession. It was something I could take very seriously and be proud of, and I was. Mm-hmm. And then I got to meet the people that were my heroes, the people that I looked up to that were my like idols, you know, and so forth. And I realized that when they became like sort of peers, that I felt disenchanted with the whole thing. I felt as though I had seen the little man working the levers. You know,
Yeah, Wizard of Oz. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, making the smoke come out. The mighty Oz is just this little old man climbing up and down the ladders, you know, pulling the levers and stuff. And I realized that a lot of these guys that I looked up to and idolized were just like drug addicts.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well,
just kind of
they're human too. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, that's the thing is I realized like these guys, they may look amazing and they're doing amazing things in terms of their training, but then everything else, it was at the expense of everything else. And at a certain, I want to say it was around 2003 or something, I decided I wasn't going to compete in bodybuilding anymore. I had a contract, and they were like, I told them straight up, I'm not going to compete anymore. And they were like, well, you can stay and change your mind if you want. You can stay and just wait it out. Maybe it'll, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe by the end, maybe by the time it runs out, you'll change your mind. We'll keep you on. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
So I wrote it out for another year, but I didn't compete.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I don't think I'd ever do something like that again. I just, you know, it was like I said, it was about 7-8 years of, that was the core, that was the center of the kernel of my life.
Yeah.
And, you know,
so
I understand the attraction to it, but I think I know better.
Yeah.
At this point.
So once you were like, I guess you had made up your mind that you were done with your bodybuilding career. Did you immediately transition into more of a trainer coach mentality, or did you kind of like?
Boy, that's a story in itself.
Yeah.
So
I'm all ears.
So okay. So the way that works is, I guess you obviously don't know much about me, so I'm gonna.
No, I don't.
All right. Okay, so there was the period there where I decided I wasn't going to compete in bodybuilding anymore, and even prior to that point, I had started. You know, I was engaging in criminal behavior, criminal activity. You know,
Okay.
My lifestyle had shifted towards being involved in criminal stuff. Now, I was also still very much involved in bodybuilding and a fitness professional, and I had an endorsement contract and all these other things. But I was definitely also heavily involved in the criminal element. You know, and that was my upbringing. You know what I mean? I was getting in fist fights when I was 11 years old and 12 years old, and
Yeah.
you know, it started from there, and it really never stopped. It got worse and worse up until that point. And bodybuilding helped me hold it together because it gave me like a center, like I said, like a focus for my life. But when it wasn't what I thought, when it turned out to not be what I had expected it to be,
Yeah.
I was very disappointed, and I just went off the rails wildly and quickly. And so I ended up in prison. I went to prison for a few years in my early 20s. And that was actually in prison is where this set was born. I just did a ton of, like I was telling you before, I had that bug, I had that sort of interest to research, you know, the human body and its potential, nutrition, training, things we could modify, modifiable factors that would influence the outcomes of different situations. And so I really dug into the Russian stuff, and I got a bunch of books sent to me, and I read everything that was available, and I realized that I wanted to get back into more strength training. That was really my goal.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I wanted to be able to stay strong, you know?
Yeah.
And I've always, for some reason, fallen into a position where I always find myself in leadership roles in any situation, and I don't know why that is. I'm not saying that I deserve that or something, but it tends to happen. People listen to me for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And so in prison, I had a large group of people that I trained with, that I coached and trained, and that was where I experimented with the earliest versions of this set.
Okay.
And that's where we ran the first meso. Some of this stuff is included in the first and the second book. But like that's where a lot of this stuff was developed. Actually, was first in prison, and then obviously, I mean, I've been out of prison now for a long time, almost 2 decades.
Yeah.
So it's a different life, different situation, different world. I never went back to jail or had any further issues with the law after that. That was a wake up call for me.
Yeah.
And so I figured out, I had the head for it. Obviously, I had no issues with making money legally. So when I got out of prison, at one point I went back and figured it out that I made $70,000 my first 12 months out of jail legally, like working different jobs, So and that was a matter of me learning how to weld and then going from one shop to another shop and getting raised, and eventually union and, eventually I made great money doing ironwork for a little bit, and I retired from that altogether. I was still working with with various athletes, football players and so forth in Philly, while I was still doing ironwork. And I had a construction company also that was like a private contracting company. I would just bid on various jobs and sub most of it out to other people. And I was running that while I was doing. Then I would run and meet up with this football player at City Fitness and train there and go do these other, get people ready for preseason, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then, excuse me. Then from there, I was doing powerlifting again. I was coaching at Iron Sport in Philly, and I realized it was time for me to get my own place. I realized that the city life I'd always been accustomed to it felt foreign to me. It felt like something I didn't really want to be part of anymore.
Yeah.
And so that was when I sold everything, including my business and my house and everything, my bikes. And I bought Keyhole, which is my gym, Keyhole Barbell.
Yeah.
And it's where I live too. I mean, it's a monstrous building. It's like over 9,000 square feet.
Yeah.
But it was an old church, and I don't know what made me want a church. Just maybe the square footage, but I just felt compelled to buy a church.
Yeah.
Figured and so I went and I bought one, and I looked at a bunch before I did, but I bought it and I moved out here. I didn't know anybody. Nobody knew me. Middle of nowhere. I didn't have any friends or family within probably 300 miles or so.
Yeah.
And I'm in the middle of nowhere out here. I have to drive a half hour to go to Starbucks. It's a supermarket. I'm in the sticks.
Yeah.
And that's what I like.
Yeah.
That worked out. I started the Keyhole Barbell powerlifting team, and that took off pretty quickly. And it's just kind of, the rest is history. I wrote the Fifth Set book eventually, and Elite FTS wanted to publish that for me.
Yeah.
They did. They helped me get that off the ground, and Dave Reddy really loved it. That was many years ago now.
Mm-hmm.
But I wrote the first Fifth Set book by 2014. I also broke my spine in 2014. It was an interesting year, but I survived. There were a lot of ups and downs and so forth.
Yeah.
Along the way there. Then I moved into really doing well as a powerlifting coach. Around that time, I was working with most of the best lifters in the United States. Like, for example, the XPC Arnold Classic wins. I think for 3 years in a row, I had both winners, the male and female.
Yeah.
In Raw, which is wild. Yeah, at one point it seemed like everything was Fifth Set, and even Elite FTS, it was everywhere on the site when you go on. It was just wildly popular, and I mean, I guess it still is wildly popular. I just am somewhat removed from it.
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure that with so many people using it, that they weren't bastardizing it and turning it into something less effective than it should be. So I knew the CERT course was necessary, even back in 2015. And I started working in that direction and working towards teaching people how to use it. Because I made a simple version. The first book was really just meant to be the simplest version, just real easy. Here you go. Here's what you do. Follow these templates. It's a minimum amount of work, but it would allow anyone to compete in powerlifting that wanted to try it. If you had access to a gym in this book, everything you need to know to do your first meet, train for it, to peak for it, to do your attempt selection, and to reboot and recover and start a new training cycle for another meet. So I kept it super simple. I didn't get too much into like programming options or the hows and whys. And I realized eventually, if I got everyone's attention, I'd have the opportunity to do that. And I would say it worked. It was the number 4 most used training system in the world within 6 months of it getting released, according to a survey of thousands of people. So
that's crazy.
That was pretty impressive. Yeah, so it took off pretty. People. If a lot of people are doing something consistently, that means it probably works. And so I knew if people would see it, that they'd give it a try, they'd see it worked well, then they'd want more. And that was when I released a PDF called Evolutions, which sort of broke down how I do programming with lifters that I coach directly to some degree. But it was hard for a lot of people to understand. And so as a result, there were some offshoots, things that were just not necessarily correct, but their heart was in the right place. So I knew that was my own shortcoming with the information I provided. So I did my best to put together like a compendium of everything that you would possibly need to know to coach a lifter using fifth set from beginning to end. Yeah. The real version of the method, how to lay out a full macro cycle or 6 or 7 months of training at a time. And how to adjust things for individual lifters and so forth. What can and can't be adjusted, what exercises can and can't be subbed in, what needs to go where, and so forth. Yeah. And so that book's coming out in hopefully in June. Okay. On Amazon. So that'll be very in depth. And then in August we're supposed to do the CERT course out of EFTS. Okay. Which is it should be cool. I'm excited for that, man. I've put a ton of work into this. Like, what's it now, 2022? It's something I've been working on since at least the CERT course since at least 2016. So maybe 2017, you could say. It's like years and years and years. And I've been directly working on it for the last 2 years to kind of get a good, like, what exactly would I need to be sure that someone knew how to coach this method? What exactly would what points do they have to what areas do they need to demonstrate competency in order for me to say, this is someone that knows fish head, knows how to run it. Yeah. Like Greg Knorr is a great example. I've done around 115 seminars in person where I've worked with over 4,000 lifters. Over the last 6 years, I've toured the United States so many times I can't possibly count. Yeah. Gone a circle of various training facilities all around the United States teaching my methods. And Greg Knorr also was with me for most of those, I would say. He's somebody that's very knowledgeable at fifth set. I know he does fifth set programming with his lifters still. And we're going to do this sometime soon. But he's someone who I could trust him to understand what fifth set is because he's heard me teach it 100 times. So he knows. And so but I wanted to be, the idea is we need more people like that. I need more like sort of centurions or people that understand what the rules are to kind of guide things, because I won't be able to do this forever. And I can't travel the country teaching little groups forever. So we can get some other people that can become educators in this department or become competent and, in the method, using the method. I think that's for the best, and that way it won't be all for nothing. I won't do this forever. Yeah,
understandably, but in regards to that certification, are you gonna tour with that and like have, or are you gonna have everyone that wants to be certified come to you, basically?
Everyone that wants to be certified has to come to Elite because we're going to have it at that facility, which is in London, Ohio, right outside of Columbus. Okay, yeah. Very easy to get to. It's like a convention city. We have like nothing but convention. They have a huge convention center. Like the population triples every year for the Arnold. So it's a good. We're going to look to do that toward the end of summer. I'm thinking August is when that first certification will be, and we'll probably do those every 6 months to a year. Okay. I've had a lot of requests for like online for people that are like overseas and so forth. Like I just did a podcast with a guy in Australia, and he was really interested in doing it, and like others, I've been interested in doing it online. And once I figure out how I can communicate what I need to and how I can test what I need to online, then I would offer that. But it's going to be different. It's going to be difficult to do that without having them in person. It's a 2-day course. There's a lot of so there's like a practical exam where you have to actually diagnose what's wrong with someone's lift.
Yeah.
And then you have to use the cueing system, which is part of the method. You have to prescribe the correct cues for the subsequent sessions for what they should focus on. You know, that's one aspect of it. So I do that with an actual person, like look at them. I guess we could offer that with a video where you diagnose it and that's either right or wrong. But you know, there's something to be said for being in person and having someone physically demonstrate and be able to move your body and show you how things should be. You know.
Yeah.
So there's that, and then they basically have to also demonstrate competency in the programming. So they have to show how to what are the rules for the program and put together a full macro of training. And so there's a lot of other stuff that we touched on in there, but that's the meat and potatoes of it.
Yeah.
So as far as am I going to travel? Yeah, not to do the CERT courses, but just to do seminars here and there. You know, I'm not going to travel with the schedule that I did prior to 2020, which was basically constantly. I was doing at least 3 or 4 seminars a month.
Yeah.
I'll probably never go back to that, but I will do here and there seminars. I love teaching and working with people in person. That's like definitely a passion for me, is being able to actually face-to-face work with someone and have them get something and like have it click. Like that's very rewarding to me. So I'd like to continue doing that as long as I can. But I have a family. You know, my wife's 8 months pregnant.
Yeah.
We got a little baby coming very shortly. So
yeah, congratulations.
Thank you, man. Thank you. It's quite a blessing. I'm very grateful for it. And yeah, so that's cool.
Yeah.
But that's basically the rundown of everything from. That's the short version of everything from the beginning to date. So there's about 1 million things in there I had to skip by, but that's the short version of my story and the fifth set story.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Yeah, I'd known. I knew a little bit about your bodybuilding history, but yeah, I apologize about bringing up the rough part of your past. I was unaware of that. So.
Hey man,
yeah.
I'm open. That's the thing. I'm an open book. Like it's not a secret. I just.
Yeah.
You don't need to apologize about that, man. I'm somebody that like I value honesty and truth. You know, and that means not hiding from the facts.
Yeah.
Like, it is what it is, man. You know, I just want to. You know, I want to communicate honestly. That's my goal in life. So I mean, as far as prison and things like that go, those are factual things that have happened.
Yeah.
Things that I've done. So I mean, you know, obviously, I regret mistakes I've made in the past, and you know, I mean, I still make mistakes. I'm a human being.
Yeah, you know? Everybody does.
Other bodybuilders, they're humans, right? Like, sadly, we all fall short. You know.
Yeah.
But, I think the important thing is acknowledging that and being willing to say, like, yeah, that was a bad thing, and I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But when you start defending the bad thing, you'll go. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, just like you said, you've got the choice to choose to better yourself, basically. You know, like like when you're prepping for bodybuilding, you know what you need to eat, what the exercises you need to do. You know, if you cut your stuff in half, you're not going to get the best out of your day. You know, so.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and that's all of those lessons you can extrapolate what you need from them. All the little things, like there's so many things in lifting and in nutrition and so forth that like those little lessons that we take, they apply to everything in life. You know, they're definitely externally valid. It's not just about learning how to cut calories. You know, it's about learning how to control yourself and function as a man. You know.
Yeah.
For me, that's So that's a big thing. Yeah,
for sure. Well, I appreciate your time today. That was awesome.
Oh yeah. I'm glad we got to do this. It's definitely nice to talk with you.
Yeah, for sure. Other than that, before we end this, where's the best place for people to find you? Would you say your Instagram or do you have a YouTube or something?
So Instagram has me shadow banned off and on for various various periods in time. You can't find my name and so forth, and everybody's upset about that. I get a lot, like I would get a ton of messages from people that are mad about it. And I mean, I just tell them like with anything else, it is what it is. What are you going to do? You have to accept it. Yeah, you know what I mean. I'm a little bit harder to find, but I'm offering you a ton of free content. So
exactly, yeah.
If you want it, then you'll seek it. It's there. It's there for everybody that wants it. So you can find me on Instagram, but as far as what's the best way to find me, It depends what you need. Yeah, I mean, I have the information available on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. I do edutainment, educational posts. If you're interested in programming, I offer programming for like the Fifth Set team on an app that's awesome. We can click on the link in my Instagram bio. It's also, it's all over my socials. You'll see the Fifth Set team. It's Train Heroic is the app that I use.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's just that's not one-on-one coaching, but I am in there coaching everybody, and I give everyone's programming and help them with how to run the method. And it's really inexpensive. It's like $30 a month. So,
oh yeah,
I mean,
it's worth it.
it's like a tenth of what I charge for one-on-one.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's definitely it's an opportunity for. Well, what was happening was I would take a client once a year. I'd say I'm taking clients, and I would do 200 applications and take 2 or 3 people.
Yeah.
And turn the rest away. It just doesn't feel right. So now when this presented this opportunity, I was like, oh yeah, we'll do that. And praise God, it's a great service. It's an opportunity for guys that want to lift and want to understand how to do powerlifting to have access to a team environment where they have that support group of people that are like, yeah, man, you're getting it, or questions, just comparing notes. There's a chat feature in there. It's a great deal, man.
Yeah.
I don't even know how I got involved in it, but a friend of mine was doing it, and he's a pretty well-known coach. His name's Paul Carter.
Oh.
And actually, Greg, who is the guy I was talking about teaching those groups, he has a huge group on there too. So eventually, one of the founders of the company hooked up with me, and we talked, and he's been helping me get that started. So
okay.
I don't even got a crazy amount of people in there yet. It's only 50 or something like that. So
yeah,
now's the time to get in. And eventually, when the numbers get higher, I'll have to jack the price up so it doesn't get unmanageable. But yeah, I mean, it's good now. The people that are in, I'm not gonna jack the price up on people that are already in.
They get grandfathered in, basically.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So there's that. That's if you're looking for that. If you're looking for the, I have a mailing newsletter.
Okay. Yeah.
That I do with all my info. So to get on that, that's pretty easy too. You can either shoot me a message on Instagram, or I put the box up periodically on my story to throw your emails in, and then that'll tell you about when the CERT course come in, any information about signing up for the group training, any stuff like that. And yeah, I usually post long form posts on Instagram with information and so forth. So, but my name on there is MF Swede. Okay. So pretty easy to look up. If you just type Swede Burns into any social media, you should be able to find me. But just make sure it's the right one. If it's
yeah, there's a couple fake ones out there. Yeah.
There's ones that are just not me. I don't know who they are.
Yeah, I got you. Well, I really appreciate this, man.
Hey, man, I appreciate it. Thank you. I appreciate it. Nice to have a conversation with you, and thank you for the interest.
Yeah.
If there's anything else I can do, you let me know, okay?
All right, man. Thank you.
All right, my brother. You have a good day. God bless you.
All right. Yes, sir. You too.